I would rather go speaking about Vanja Marinkovic. I mean, what a week he had. 35 points in the crazy game against Fenerbahce, and then as we discussed this Valencia game on the weekend, he scored 24 in 18 minutes against Valencia.
And I always thought he had it in him.
I see 19. Why so?
I don't know. It's just on basketnews.com. 24 points in 18 minutes. But it's also on the ACB.
Okay. Then flash score is
or it was
bugged.
efficiency. Score 18.
I see 19 points, but
Okay.
6 of 10 shooting, whatever. A lot of still a solid game
Solid week
for him. Solid
you
week.
can say. And
Fantastic week.
I just always thought he had it in him. To me, it always looked like he can be a scoring machine. It's just that maybe he was not with the right coaches for a while. Like if you remember when he transferred from Valencia to Baskonia, it looked like Duško Ivanović is not his type of a coach. And then there was Neven Spahija. And now I think they're just playing a much more shooter-friendly offensive system, I would say.
Ooh.
And when he gets hot, he can be as good as anybody in the league. And 35 points, he ranks in the all-time 5 of highest scoring performances for Baskonia, right?
Yeah, and I was so surprised to find Macijauskas and Stombergas on the top.
On the top.
It's a bit random speaking about Spanish team with this rich Argentinian players culture like Scola, Nocioni, Prigioni, and then you see Macijauskas 40, Stombergas 39.
But they always, like, even lately, they have a Lithuanian.
They have players from the Baltics every
Yeah.
season right now. For Stombergas, I think it was that performance when he also broke the three-point record.
Free
It
pointers.
was 9 of 9 or 10 of 10.
Something like that, and then Shane Larkin.
I think the most makes 3-pointers without a miss.
and Shane,
9 of 9. I
Shane
think.
Larkin went for his record in that Bayern Munich game.
And missed.
And
One.
eventually
The last
missed, but ended up like 10 from
Okay.
12 or something like that. And Macijauskas, well, honestly, I'm not surprised that Maci had 40 points in a EuroLeague game.
No.
But yeah, the list is beautiful, and now Vanja Marinkovic has his name on it. And do you remember last week when we were discussing Baskonia's chances to make the playoffs? You kind of had some doubts, and I said I'm just betting all my money. At the moment, I had like 22 euros on me, so it's not much. But well, the bet is becoming successful.
But it's still a little bit early.
I mean, they have to beat Asvel at home, which I think will happen. And then we have this tricky situation with the last game week.
That's a very tricky situation that I had a question for you. If you're Bartzokas and you're playing Baskonia, and if you win against Baskonia, it means that you will face Baskonia in the playoffs. And if you... No, it's vice versa. If you lose to Baskonia, you get Baskonia in the playoffs, and if you win, you get FS. What do you do?
I don't play walk-ups, Lukas, Vezenkov, and Fal.
They load management.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you do that. The quarterfinal series is the only series where it's a series where you can choose an opponent. You have a home court advantage. You are clearly a better team. And all you need to do in this EuroLeague is to make the Final Four, because in the Final Four, it's one game, so you don't really need to choose the opponents and stuff like that. And this is the only series where you face a potentially 5-game series. And if you can have Baskonia instead of FS, if that's the question,
that's a smart choice.
It's not like I'm saying to my players, go there and
to
lose on purpose,
but
it's
I'm
just going to be
moves
35 minutes of Michalis Lundzis playing point guard position.
Or like some very strange,
That would be a very weird game, actually.
It's quite possible that we can witness that. Although
as bad as FS can look, they have shown us in some games that the talent level is still there.
Yeah.
And you don't want to see that in the playoffs. Although, if they get there, I said 1,000 times here, it's really hard for me to see FS competing on that level for 40 minutes in 5 games or 3 games, whatever. But if you can avoid that,
of course.
And because Baskonia is a home team.
Yeah.
And, Olympiacos will have the first 2 games at home, and then only then you go to Buesa, so potentially you can close it in 3 games or 4 games. So it's just, to me it's a no-brainer.
Although Olympiacos didn't clinch the first seed yet, and we're not sure if Efes will be in the position to at least qualify, because they still need to win the Istanbul derby. And as it seems right now, the derby is equally as important to Fenerbahce.
The key game.
Because after losing to Baskonia, Fenerbahce also is at risk. So if I had to guess, I would say that Efes will not even be in contention on the last day.
Oh, so you think they're gonna lose against
I think
Fener?
they'll lose to Fenerbahce because right now Fener also is very motivated for that game, and knowing how inconsistent Efes is right now, and also Ataman probably realizes that their chances are not that real. I mean, it doesn't really depend on them. So I think that we might see dominant Fenerbahce performance. That's my guess.
I'm not so
for
confident
the
about
That's a
Fener
bold
because
guess.
they lost 4 of their last 5 games.
I know that. I'm just saying.
This Baskonia game was close to do or die game for.
I'm
for
just
them
saying the
actually, in
context of this game
importance-wise.
to me suggests that it's a possibility, and I'm just thinking that, do FS players and the coach believe that it's possible when they need so many other results to fall for them? I mean, it's like if Baskonia win everything they have, you cannot compete with them. If Žalgiris wins everything they have, you cannot compete with them. So basically you need to win and also expect something to happen in favor of yours. But I don't really see that, and
I don't see how it
I'm just
affects
going with
their
Fenerbahce.
motivation, really.
At least not in this game, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe in the last one, you know, if they have like Valencia had 1% chance, then yeah. But I think this game is probably the most unpredictable game of the season. FS showed some great defense in their first game of the double week. You know, bench players
Against Milan, right?
bench against Milano, bench players contributing on the defense. Elijah Bryant, Rodrigue Boba, one of the probably most underrated players on defense, on the defensive side in EuroLeague. So I wouldn't be so sure about Fenerbahce winning that game. What I saw from them in the second half, in the collapse of the second half against Baskonia, was, I would say, you know, not typical of Fener. But at the same time, I think their record in the last 12 games is 4-8 or 5-7 in the last 12 games. So just not typical defensive mistake from Itudi's team. It's not like Baskonia were running some amazing offense. You know, they were just being a bit lazy. You know, what you would expect to see from maybe FS players. I saw that from Fenerbahce players, and I'm not sure why I'm seeing this, because they were doing quite good, and then it seemed like they just turned off in the last 12
they were in
minutes.
control like for 2.5 quarters. After the first half, it seemed like Baskonia struggles to create open looks, and it seemed like Fenerbahce is really controlling the game, but everything changed in the third quarter, and it has a lot to do with the defense, as you said, but at the same time, it was frustrating to see Fenerbahce players missing so many open shots and also layups. They had problems
from the paint.
They have problems finishing at the rim, and Marko Guduric, who has been one of their most consistent players recently, had an off night basically. So
talk about off nights. Tyler Dorsey had one as well.
Exactly, yeah. And you know what you said makes a lot of sense. Probably makes more sense than what I'm saying. It's just that I have a feeling it's going to be Fenerbahce's night. And
okay.
And what do you have against my feelings?
Let's see Rytis.
Yeah.
I had this question that from 1 to 10, what are the odds of Fenerbahce missing the playoffs? So I see it's close to 0 probably from Rytis'
I mean, I'm not going to say 0. I have to be realistic.
1 then?
It's a possibility, but ranking from 1 to 10, I would say 3.
Okay.
Who do they have on the last day?
They have Zvezda
away
in Belgrade.
And it's not easy.
Zvezda are not giving that game away.
Especially if you lose against FS, you're going to red start with this whole huge pressure on your back.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be easy.
I'm still going to say one win from these two games would clinch the playoffs for them. So, in my opinion, it's a free.
I think they're going to lose the derby. Like if I had to guess the winner of the game, I think Efes are going to take that one, but I think Fenerbahce is still making the playoffs. So from 1 to 10, not making the playoffs, probably around somewhere like 3, 4.
I would say maybe, from my view, maybe it's like 4. Looking at it from the perspective how much percentages I give for them to make the playoffs, I still believe that it's close, because I also believe that they're gonna lose against FS, and then it depends on basically on the combination of other results and of course winning a tough road trip in Belgrade. But I still see that there's higher possibility that they will make the playoffs. Although to miss the playoffs, they actually need Partizan to win at least one game away against Monaco or home against Panathinaikos, which is really realistic.
Not with the way Partizan been playing recently. They lost to Barcelona at home. I mean, they had these 4 games: Olympiacos, Anadolu, Barcelona, and Real Madrid, and they lost only one against Barca, where Barca played amazing defense. The only team of you.
Yeah.
But the performance against Real Madrid was off the charts.
Yeah, but go on with the what Fener needs to do to
miss the playoffs. So basically it's about them, of course, losing both games. Then Partizan needs to win at least one. And these 3 remaining teams, basically they have to win everything, or Žalgiris has to match Fenerbahce with their record at the end of the regular season. So basically Baskonia plays Asvel at home and Olympiacos away. So as we said, it's really possible that they will take both too. So Efes plays Fenerbahce, and in this case they lose. Fenerbahce lose. It goes down to the second game. And Efes, they're playing Monaco at home, which means that it will be probably meaningless game for Monaco, because I think that they have disadvantage in both head-to-head against Real Madrid and Barca. They're already 1 win away from them, so it's close to the fact that it's gonna be a load management game for Monaco as well. And Žalgiris plays Maccabi at home and Bayern away. So if Žalgiris, that's one of the biggest factors. Žalgiris has to win against Maccabi.
Yeah, and that's a huge game.
Yeah.
And if I'm in Maccabi's position, I'm thinking, what are my best chances to get to the Final Four? And it's definitely not against Olympiacos, Barcelona, Real Madrid. If I'm Maccabi, I'm surely targeting Monaco. Of course, the home court advantage is impossible right now, but still, if you can choose any opponent from these 4 teams,
it's Monaco.
It's Monaco, obviously.
Definitely.
So for Maccabi, it's an important game, in my opinion. And obviously, when you're on the run, you want to extend the winning streak as long as possible. When everyone's feeling good, there's no point of basically giving games away. And I think they will be very focused in the Žalgiris arena. And for Žalgiris, it's another final. It's another do or die game. So it's probably, alongside the Istanbul derby, the most exciting game of the week.
Probably. I haven't seen the other ones.
Yeah.
I mean, there are good games, but some of them are not as valuable as this one. There's so much at stake, you know?
Yeah, but of course Maccabi is
probably
of a home team, and they won 14 games at home of 16, and away their record is 5 wins and I think 11.
Yeah, but that's the
losses.
whole season's record. But
True.
if you look at
No,
their
recently they were
recent
in amazing
performances,
shape.
like 2 away games against FS and Asvel, basically were perfect games for Maccabi.
The only loss in the last 2 months basically was in Monaco, and it was just this 4th quarter collapse.
Yeah, and they're on an 11 win streak, I believe, counting EuroLeague and the
Domestic.
Israeli league. So they're the hottest team right now.
But again, I mean, this scenario of Fenerbahce missing the playoffs is not something, unrealistic and 0.1%
I mean, it's
possibility.
It's not impossible.
intriguing.
Yeah, and also your bold prediction about Fenerbahce making the Final Four is now at risk because
Still on the table.
Because I mean, even if they qualify for the playoffs, it seems like they're gonna have a series against Barcelona or Real Madrid. So
Yes,
would
I
you-
was way more confident after the first 11 games of the regular season.
know.
So it's surprising that now you're bringing this back.
No,
But anyway.
I'm just saying, like, there were so many ups and downs in this Fenerbahce season. At one point, they're looking like a Final Four team. At some point, they're looking like a team who's not making the playoffs.
Exactly.
Then right now, they are looking sort of okay, but you can see how much they're affected by even a single injury to one player. Like when they lose Scotty Wilbekin from the rotation, and all of a sudden they have problems. They lose Deschamps Pierre. And even though Tariq Biberovic kind of stepped up, but they still have problems. So it looks like for Rytis to be successful this season, he just needs to have the full roster. Because some other teams, you can see they cope better when they lose one or two players to injuries. But when something happens in Fenerbahce, it looks like they just lose their rhythm.
What are the timetables for these guys to come back? For Scotty and others.
I
do
don't
we
remember
know, because
really well.
they have
because
been
I lost track
sitting
when
out.
those guys got injured. For example, Wilbekin was out for 2 weeks. It was March 23, so he should come back. His comeback should be on the corner, maybe later this week or the following week, and that's crucial. Deschamps Pierre, he should be back. He was out for 3 weeks on March 12th, so their comeback is on the corner, I think.
To me, it was interesting how their defense collapsed and it seemed like Vanja Marinkovic got the Stephen Curry treatment when he got drop coverage in the game 4 against Boston. Like, this guy had 4 triples and Tony Ajikiri is defending him behind the 3-point line. Obviously, he's going to pull up from the 3-point line. It's not like Baskonia's offense there was working perfectly. It was just like I don't know, Fener treating him, I don't know, like he's been 0 from 6, not 5 from 7 or whatever. So
fans were also treating him like some superstar.
MVP.
Every time he got the ball, of course he started draining those threes, fans that were just roaring, expecting for another miracle. And it brought me back to some memories from the summer league I've been to in Vegas when Zion Williamson did his debut. As soon as he got the ball, everybody was almost standing, waiting for some highlights. And then my memories goes to Laurynas Birutis playing Monaco or Valencia at home. And every time he gets the ball in the post, Žalgiris fans, they're also getting crazy as if he was some Hakeem Olajuwon, which I kind of called him after what he did against Monaco. So yeah, it was an exciting week for some individuals that were not used to that kind of treatment.
Baskonia just has this if it rains, it pours mentality. And, well, basically...
Shout out to 50 Cent.
Following this whole season...
One of the most random things that we heard on this pod, and you couldn't predict that.
Oh, when it rains, it pours. I mean, that's his song.
Yeah, I know, but still...
You reminded me of the photo of Rick Carlisle and 50 Cent together, and Tyrese Halliburton just tweeting, "Get Rick or die trying." That was a good one.
Get Rick.
But anyway, getting back to my point, you kind of following this whole season, following Baskonia this whole season. If you had to guess who could get hot and have a 35-pointer, you would say Marcus Howard.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it's Vanja Marinkovic.
On a night where Marcus Howard couldn't,
Yeah, for Marcus Howard, it was not a good game. He tried...
Second half was completely...
Tried to get going with some transition threes. The shots were not going in, and obviously Fenerbahce were trying to attack him as much as possible on the defensive side. My favorite player in Baskonia, of course, is Darius Thompson. I even have a nickname for him right now. For the way he's been playing, is Legendarius Thompson, because you just love to see how he controls the game. You love to see him with the ball in his hands. He is so calm all the time. They're down by 8, they're up by 8. It doesn't really affect his game. I love his decision making. He has so much to offer, and I don't know what's his contract situation with Baskonia, But I think in the summertime, his agent will be busy.
The problem is that he's on a two-year contract with Baskonia, and usually it's not that easy to get out of Baskonia.
So it's not necessarily a problem.
Yeah,
it might be a problem for other suitors,
yeah,
but you know, for the player himself and for the club, it could be a good situation. I mean, but he's definitely a top point guard right now.
So if I had this question, which 8 seed team? First of all, we're not sure that, I mean, this playoff race is so wild that all the teams can go as high as 5th seed and 8th seed. I mean, it's still very unpredictable, but at first it looked like it was the race for the 8th seed between Baskonia, Žalgiris and FS. Now it's way more open race, but still, if we had the 8th seed race and there is Žalgiris and Baskonia potentially facing Olympiacos, so I believe I'm hearing from you that you see more potential from Baskonia to make any possible surprise in a way that, you know, you can have these scoring nights from Marcus Howard, Vanja Morinkovic, there's that legendary Thompson and some other guys in the crew.
I mean, if you look at the talent, yes, but if you, let's say, if you look at the last game, Žalgiris Olympiacos escaped with a win from Kaunas, so
but still,
honestly,
without
honestly,
Lucas,
I wouldn't predict any upsets here, one way or another. And if I'm Olympiacos, I wouldn't even bother choosing what's better for me, Baskonia or Žalgiris. It's just what I get. But yeah, I do believe that Baskonia possibly could have a huge night where everyone's making their shots and you just cannot cope with them, and you might drop a game at home, and then it could be a series, because obviously when you have this 1st seed versus the 8th seed, in order to have a series you need to have a split in the first 2 games, and knowing how strong Baskonia is at home, they wouldn't give any game easily at the Buesa Arena. But I don't know, really. Yeah, probably Baskonia has a bit more potential than Žalgiris, because Žalgiris is a team with a huge fighting spirit, a team full of players who are sacrificing their bodies for every 50-50 ball and stuff like that. But when the playoffs come, everybody does that. It's not going to be Žalgiris' advantage over an Olympiacos, in my opinion. And talent-wise, yeah, Baskonia is obviously a more talented team.
I agree that, you know, we shouldn't predict any upsets here. But I actually think Žalgiris would have, you know, a higher chance of upsetting the 1st seed than Baskonia. I think, you know, the playoff starts, defense intensifies of every team, and Baskonia offense, that free-flowing offense, wouldn't have as much chances to score so easily. Like, for example, in this game against Fenerbahce, where they had so many easy baskets. And I love Žalgiris' fighting spirit. I think with their defense, with their fight, doesn't matter how hard they have to work to score in offense. I think their defense could potentially have a bigger impact than Baskonia's offense, you know, in a series. But that's me just saying, you know, Žalgiris have 15% chance of upsetting the 1st seed, or even 10. And Baskonia, you know, or whatever, 10 versus 15%, or 15 versus 20%.
15 is a lot, actually.
Sounds like 10%, you know, not a lot of chances.
Yeah, but
just I think maybe, you know, or potentially, like, I'm looking at the 8th seeds. I thought about looking at 8 seeds from the last year. It was Bayern and
it's sad that we
Zenit.
don't have Barca. We probably won't have Barca as the 1st seed, because it automatically gives us a game 5 series. Yeah, whether it was Bayern or Zenit.
But it was both teams, you know, the 8th seeds I'm talking about, had great defense, you know, great coaching, great adjustments. And I think Žalgiris this year is exactly about that, you know, about game planning versus towards defensive versus toward opponent's offense, like they did against Monaco. So they could potentially have a game 5, I think. But I'm not predicting any upsets there. It's just, you know, comparing Baskonia and Žalgiris purely.
So basically, answering the question, you're saying that
Baskonia loses 3-0, Žalgiris loses 3-1.
Okay, for Olympiacos, Žalgiris could be a bigger challenge. That's your point.
Yeah,
Okay.
Slightly bigger challenge.
if Žalgiris makes the playoffs, I think that the coach of the year conversations should start and end just with Yorgos Bartzokas and Kazys Maksvytis then. Bartzokas, for sure, for potentially winning the first seed, they're in this position if they win one more game, and I think that they're playing something close to Villeurbanne they're playing Red Star away. Okay, so it's not done yet. But if they win one game, they clinch the first seed, and the job that Bartzokas did in the last 2 years since he took over the team in 2020, I think it was a huge job. And even though they were great already last year, we didn't see them coming on the top in the regular season. We thought that we're lacking of something because our teams just improved their teams a lot. And for Olympiacos, it might not be enough. So they became one of the most attractive teams, one of the most complete teams, and deserved this first seed. But then when you look at our coaches, our teams, and our situations, I mean, I think it should be Kazys Maksvytis, because Žalgiris last year, they were dead bottom. Kazys Maksvytis took the team with 9 new players, and talent-wise, we can all agree that they are really limited.
And they lost their best player.
And that's the case.
In December, they lost their best player.
And probably many of us ruled them out of this conversation, of this playoff conversation, and they lost potentially the MVP candidate for the season, Keenan Evans. And they're still in this mix. They're still fighting for the playoffs, and they're still in this conversation. So for what Kazys Maksvytis did, it's something great. He's a great guy he's like a glue guy. He can unite those teams, and that's what he did.
He just brings the best out of every player. That's what
the magic.
What impresses me the most. Like, some of these players on the roster before the season, you would have doubts whether they are EuroLeague material, honestly. But all of them had some games where they delivered. Like, you take all these role players like Dimša, Birutis, even Lukošiūnas now in the last game against Valencia.
Arnas Butkevičius is playing like a guy who could fit on any team in the EuroLeague.
Exactly. So somehow Kazys Maksvytis just brings the best out of every player. Everybody plays their role almost perfectly, you could say. Yes, they have some better nights, some worse nights. They're not, as I said, a very talented team. Therefore, you cannot always count on them to make shots and to create shots, because they dropped 2 games against Panathinaikos, for example, and it affects the standings. But my prediction for Žalgiris is that if they make the playoffs, and I'm not really...
You don't think
I'm not really betting on that, but if they do, they're not going to be the 8th seed. Because to make the playoffs, they need to win both games. And if they win both games, they get advantage over Maccabi, and they get advantage. They already have an advantage over Fenerbahce. And let's say Baskonia doesn't win both of their games, they would be ahead of them as well. So basically, if they make the playoffs with 19 wins, they're probably not going to be the 8th seed. They could be higher, because Maccabi, on the last day, they face Real Madrid at home. Yes, Maccabi at home, they can beat anybody, but who knows? Madrid maybe will take this game seriously because they want to be like the higher seed or whatever. And Fenerbahce situation, we've already discussed that. If they lose the Istanbul derby, even if they beat Zvezda, they make the top 8, but Žalgiris has an advantage over them. So, in my opinion, if the Lithuanian team wins both games, they finish higher than 8th. But honestly, I don't think they're going to win both games.
We'll see. And the last question, I had 4 questions for the playoffs. What was interesting and funny that we hoped that this double round week will deliver more answers.
Yeah, you said questions. It will be more clear.
But it's a bit more clear with Milan, Red Star, Valencia, Virtus officially eliminated from this conversation.
It was kind of clear before.
But yeah, still. But this race from the 5th to 8th, 9th, 10th seed is just getting ridiculous. And the last question I had, and we have 4 teams that clinched the home court advantage: Olympiacos, Barca, Real Madrid, and Monaco. So if you're a Partizan fan, and if you're Partizan, can you just please rank me? There's Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Monaco. Can you make a ranking from the teams that you wish to get in the playoffs?
These 3 teams.
Yeah.
Which ones?
So
Olympiacos, Barca, and Madrid.
and Monaco. Yeah.
Olympiacos is also in the conversation.
No.
Just Barca, Madrid,
I
and
just
Monaco,
don't
right?
see them dropping both games and losing the.
I think it's obvious, and Monaco is number one, and Madrid number two.
Madrid number two.
I wouldn't want to face Rytis in a series. I would rather face Real Madrid, even though they're a very talented team. But Željko Obradović could do a coaching clinic for Chus Mateo. So Madrid number two, and then Barcelona. Do we all agree on that?
It was, yeah, definitely.
I think so, but I just wanted to hear your remarks about this Barca Partizan game.
I mean, Barca,
because we were so much in awe of Partizan's offense, the way they played. They're still a really great team, but the way Barca contained them,
they just made it a fight.
Forced them to 5 assist game.
Yeah.
This nicely, fluently, led offense that they had, it was just crazy.
My 3 takes from this game would be, first of all, Barcelona's homework, their defense. It was close to perfection against the number 1 offensive rating right now. Partizan is still number 1, right?
Or number 1 or number 2.
They've been number 1 basically all year.
If we take last 10 games, they're probably number 1 or something. So for Barca, that was a huge defensive effort. My second take would be, how great is Nikola Mirotic? He doesn't even need to have the ball for 2.5 quarters to be effective. And at one point, I believe he only had 1 field goal, but also 16 performance index rating. And then after hitting his first 3-pointer, he felt good and started scoring. And also, Nicolas Laprovitola, approaching the playoffs, is sort of getting back to his shape. He had some bad moments during the season, like the Copa del Rey, some struggles in the EuroLeague, the loss with the Argentina national team, not making it to the World Cup. But in this Partizan game, he delivered really from the very beginning of the game. So these would be my 3 takes. And that was just a great game of basketball, honestly. Oh, yeah. Partizan was also fighting. We had Dante Exum against his former team, putting up a good performance. Of course, the crazy atmosphere in their arena. Željko Obradović introducing Šaras to the Partizan fans before the game. I mean, it had everything. It was just like a perfect basketball night to me.
To me, what's crazy is that Partizan had 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
And 5 assists. So Barcelona basically stopped them on the defense without forcing turnovers, without making them assist, but basically staying in front. And the greatest example was Tomasz Satoranski fighting over various screens in the same possession. He's just basically, it's called, when you're trying to go over the screen and you don't get blocked by the opposing big guy, it's like canceling the screen. So in one possession, he canceled 3 screens in a row, basically just passing so close to the ball handler. It, to me, was, Barca's switching defense completely closed down every opportunity. I know Partizan was trying to do the same, so it was basically at one point of the game, it was a matchup who are attacking the switch defense better. And Barca came out on top at the end, but it was, to me, both teams knowing the special plays of the other teams, no easy baskets, closing every opportunity. After timeouts, it's funny to me. Željko and Šaras, both teams, often making a foul after the timeout to cancel what the other coach drew on the whiteboard during the timeout.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's an interesting way to stop the tactics or the special plays of the other coach. So we saw like 4 times fouls immediately after timeout. So just so many interesting details, and definitely Barca is the least favorable matchup for Partizan. Even I think more than Olympiacos, probably.
And it's probably
just because of the individual matchups and the possibilities to offer this switch all defense.
It's probably the worst matchup for Matias Lasor, because he's having an amazing season. He's one of the most dominant centers this year, alongside Motley and probably Tavares. But if you take these 2 games against Barcelona, they really fall out of the context.
Ooh.
In both games against Barcelona, he barely even touched the ball. So it seems like Barca knows how to stop him.
in both games he scored 5 points.
Yeah.
And this recent one he attempted only 3 shots, and the first one only 2 field goal attempts.
Exactly.
Wow. 2 of his lowest scoring games this season, next to one Maccabi performance as well, and Virtus. But still, yeah, somehow Šaras knows how to, utilize those mismatches or matchups against centers that are, let's say, well-known rim protectors, defenders, or big-time players. Even when he was coaching in Žalgiris, he found those mismatches in a way that some other coaches didn't even realize they can use those opportunities. So it's kind of Šaras thing.
And we've already seen in the EuroLeague Šaras versus Željko series, and it was a good 4-game series, I would say. Žalgiris really battled Fenerbahce at the time.
So I see you would like to have this playoff.
It would be
series.
It would be nice.
Amazing.
It would be nice for a basketball fan, but from Partizan's point of view, I would like to avoid that. I think I have much bigger chances to get to the Final Four facing Monaco or even Real Madrid. Or maybe even Olympiacos.
Šaras has the players, the necessary players, and he is a master of how to defend great systems of basketball. Like, I imagine Barcelona struggling way more playing against the free style of offense than playing against the Željko style of offense that they have. It's a set offense with very multiple options, but since they're such a good friends, Šaras will make his team know every detail about Partizan, and that's why I think they're such a bad matchup for Partizan. So, and to me, it's crazy, the differences in assists and turnovers in this game. 5 and 3 and 25 and 14. I mean, 20 more assists and 11 more turnovers.
I'm not sure if I have seen anything like that on the highest level.
Can we have Darius Garolis checking this? The biggest differences between assists and turnovers, and still won the game. That would probably be an interesting.
By the way, I had this. I'm not sure if I have seen this thing yesterday when I saw Wembanyama making a putback after his 3-point shot attempt. Did you guys ever witness? You for sure you follow NBA basketball more closely, and that's probably it was before the only place that you can get something like that.
I mean, maybe Tracy McGrady did it because he used to follow his own shot. If he feels it's short, he's already sprinting towards the rim for a putback, maybe. But in Wemby's case, it's just like, first of all, it's a 7-footer taking a step back 3-point shot, and secondly, obviously chasing the ball for a putback dunk. However, the game itself, I mean, for Wembanyama, it was not a good game. Monaco really dominated, and Donatas Motiejunas actually put up big numbers against Wemby. So it's just about this one putback, about one highlight, but it's not like Wembanyama had a good game. If you look at the stat sheet, you can see the numbers, and it's pretty obvious that he struggled.
Yeah.
Well, watching that highlight, I was like, okay, that's some really nice dribbling moves. Oh, okay, that's a step back. Oh, okay, it's getting in. And then it's like, oh, wait, that was not the point. The dunk was the point of the video. And then I understood why Kevin O'Connor, who's probably seen, much more NBA than us, wrote, I've never seen something like this.
Yeah, it's NBA 2K material.
The potential.
I don't think you do that even on NBA 2K.
You don't do that. It's probably not possible in the video game even.
Not really.
So following Wembanyama play, it feels like every month or two we have this moment where I wasn't sure it's possible, and he's just proving some things that go opposite the nature.
Imagine the things we are going to see in the NBA him do, I think.
Imagine the load management we're going to see.
Let's imagine the better part.
Oh, the new CBA is, trying to prevent load management, even though 65 games is still, I think, not enough. That's still 17 games where you can load manage. And
I mean, but 65 out of 82 doesn't sound that bad.
Yeah. It's and I think with the incentive that you have to make all NBA to play 65 games, it's a huge thing for players, because if you make the all NBA, you can sign much bigger contracts. The gap that makes it increase the contract is so huge. So and another thing is that those incentives are now even bigger, because the contracts also, if you sign for your own team, where are you playing right now, you can have an even bigger contract. Like the difference was 120%. You can sign a 20% bigger contract with your current team, and now it's going to be 140%.
Oh,
so it's an even bigger incentive to play 65 games and to resign for your team that you're playing right now. So I'm hoping that this will, make the asking for a trade
thing less popular.
Making you stay with your own team which drafted you, or team that made you grow. And I think that's good for the NBA, for the teams, because I think right now players maybe are starting to have too much power over where they want to play. So
I mean, America once again proves that if you cannot solve the problem with money, you can always solve it with more money.
There's always a price for everything.
Yeah, that's good.
So I see that was the best part for you from this new CBA agreement that is going to be concluded in the following weeks, right?
Yeah, and I had two where I think one is bad for EuroLeague, 3 two-way contracts instead of 2.
Yeah,
I maybe see this impacting on some way the EuroLeague, because maybe some players that could potentially go to the EuroLeague choosing.
Maybe not directly, but I think it postpones, at least for 1 or 2 seasons, the opportunity to play in the EuroLeague for some of these players that would go to Europe instead of opting in for this two-way opportunity. Because usually these players, they're getting like close to 250 net salary. So we're talking more about the Euro Cup and borderline EuroLeague players. So it's
You're
not like
talking
EuroLeague
players
talent.
for Bayern München.
Or Bayern Munich, Alba Berlin. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just another tool that Europe and EuroLeague should be concerned about, because then we have, I think it just started last year, basically NCAA players are getting paid now. And you saw the figures that LeBron's son, Bronny, potentially could expect. I mean, over $7 million for these, I would say, image contract rights or something. So, of course, it's just there's a drastic difference between the normal amount of money that you can expect. And usually we're talking just about a few $100,000 out there. But still, I mean, it's already from this whole cake that remains for the EuroLeague, you're not getting the best players, you're not getting the best borderline NBA players, you're not getting the best young players, because now there's no place in EuroLeague for the young players. So you'd rather go with this NCAA route or think about some other opportunities. And the pool of the players that is available for the EuroLeague is just getting smaller, because we have this G League team. Then there's Australia with this rule of getting one young player to Australia, sponsored by the league. I think there are a lot of different ways where other markets getting more and more players from Europe and EuroLeague. So that was for me that was the key thing of this new agreement, the third two-way contract.
And the other thing I'm skeptical about, I don't know, guys, your opinions, the in-season tournament that is already. I think starting from next year already.
Yeah.
The games are going to count for the regular season, so it's not like an aside thing, an in-season tourney. But I really doubt that players are going to care of winning that trophy. I mean, they're just going to play it as a regular season, and the winner of the players of the winning team gets $500K each, which is for star players not a lot of money. For those who are on a minimum contracts, it's kind of a 20%, 15% of their current contract. So it's not as much as little as it may seem. But I just don't think that an in-season tourney makes those games more interesting for the players themselves. I mean, who is going to care about saying that I won the in-season tourney if I don't past the first round of the playoffs.
Unless
in
you
April.
put some significant bonus in your contract for in-season tournament, but other than that, I don't see because I think that you have to motivate those star players, not the bench warmers, with some money prizes.
Now we will see. I'm not so sure about this. I don't have a strong opinion right now, but usually when NBA does something innovative, it works. I was
especially lately.
I was kind of skeptical about the play-in tournament at first, but right now it looks perfect.
But imagine the play-in this year is here in the EuroLeague.
Yeah, I thought about that. So, I just trust the NBA that they know what they're doing.
I just trust the NBA should be the new slogan of the hoodie. I just trust the NBA.
Not love the NBA, not follow the NBA, but I trust.
I just
NBA.
trust the NBA.
I trust them so much. Adam Silver is like a leader that I follow.
Do you guys trust Sergio Scariolo, who just recently said that I think that they have Maccabi, they have arguably the best backcourt with Lorenzo Brown and Wade Baldwin in the competition, and it's difficult to find a better one. That's the take.
Sergio Scariolo probably knows a thing or two about Lorenzo Brown.
And being the best in somewhere.
But, it's hard to disagree if you take just the second part of the season or especially the recent months. Who's better? Even in numbers, there's nobody better than them. So, yeah, he's right. I agree. Although we'll see what happens in the playoffs, but right now it's just clicking, and probably my worst sort of like prediction, not prediction, or just a take before the season was that Wade Baldwin and Lorenzo Brown is not a good fit. Right now it looks like a perfect fit, Even when you play them in the same lineup, or when one is resting, the other is leading the team. Actually, during the March, I think Wade Baldwin has better numbers than Lorenzo Brown. Although before that, in the first part of the season, you probably thought that it's Lorenzo's team. I mean, yeah, they just click together, and that the best thing, like the beauty of it, is that they make the other players better. You can see how a big guy like Roman Sorkin benefits from playing with these two ball handlers. You can see how they create opportunities for Jarrell Martin or Josh Nebo or anybody else, or Bonzi Colson with all these backdoor cuts and alley-oop finishes. So Sergio Scariolo is right. I think it's impossible to disagree right now.
I made some, stat checking, and I took points plus assists. So
I have the same stat.
Best backcourt, and they are by far number one in my top 5 list. These two combined have 57.8 points created per game, and it's 69% of all Maccabi points.
Yeah,
and both are number one in the best backcourts. I took Slukas and Walkup, James and Eliokobo, Micic and Larkin, and Exum and Punter as my top 5 backcourts. And I compared all the points created by these backcourts, and they are leading the total points created and percentage of teams. So you're having 70% of points created in these two guys. And Lorenzo Brown is number 1 individually, and Wade Baldwin is number 3, just behind Vasilija Micic. And to me, these stats and combining the eye test, and also it's definitely the best backcourt this season. If we're taking only this season, to me, it's a no-brainer.
And especially when Maccabi is the 5th seed, so it's already a huge achievement for this club.
As far as where we were right on all the Panathinaikos takes
or Olympiacos,
we have to say that with Maccabi and Baldwin, we were 100% wrong, and they are proving us that they can coexist together and coexist absolutely wonderfully.
Can you repeat one more time? What was your top 5 backcourts this year? Who did you pick?
Brown and Baldwin number 1, Slukas and Walkup number 2, James Okobo 3, Micic Larkin 4, Exum Punter 5. combining stats and
eye test,
my
feeling the team results,
defense as well, and taking into consideration all these things. Even though Lucas and Walkup does not create as many points.
But for me, they're kind of the
46. They have 46 compared to Browns and Baldwin's 58 almost. But their impact on both sides of the court, to me, they're one of the, ideal backcourts that you can have on both sides of the court. One is a creator. Walkup can create. Walkup can finish plays. That are created from others, and his defensive impact is just insane. I mean, the stat line he put up this week was just another proof of that. So I put them at number 2, also because they have a huge impact on the defensive side.
Yeah. Did you have your top 5? Maybe you have a different pair in this list?
No, I really didn't think about that. But I probably would agree with August. With everything that he said.
There was this, Campazzo, Vildoza, Nedovic, but they didn't play enough games. So I was
and they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, when you look at some team achievements,
the sample size is just too small.
Let's say they're borderline top 5 team.
And Nedovic, Vildoza doesn't make it because there's not much consistency in there. So I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to imagine anybody else, any 2 players being better than this top 5.
I was thinking about Real Madrid maybe, but
I couldn't find the.
But again, who's the backcourt duo?
Yeah.
Like Can and Musa is one of the players, and who's the second?
It's also about having 2 equally dominating or efficient players.
For a while,
in some teams it was different to find those matchups.
For a while, you could have a case for Darius Thompson, Marcus Howard, but then Marcus Howard's numbers have gone down, and obviously other teams started scouting him, and he had some really bad performances, I would say. And Darius Thompson, of course, is one of the best point guards this season. But if we're talking about a duo, then Darius Thompson and Marcus Howard probably falls out of the conversation.
Are we disrespecting Satoransky and Laprovitola?
Well, Guduric and Kalaitis, or Wilbekin.
There are quite a few great backcourts in this EuroLeague.
I mean, backcourt is the key of a modern basketball team. Like, if we had these EuroLeague podcasts 20 or more years ago, we would be talking about the best front court duo, like
it depends.
Power forward and center. Perhaps. I mean, it was still a big man's game at the time,
or at least it was more balanced.
Yeah, and right now I think it's all about the perimeter players. They're the stars on almost every team.
What do you think about Mike James' return? He just came back after the suspension.
The return to himself, because in Kaunas he returned physically, but he didn't return to playing at his level. And in Munich, he delivered. They've clinched the home court advantage. What more can you ask for? He needs to be an aggressive scorer for this team, because what we saw in Kaunas is just not Mike James. He was sort of trying to be good for others, like to always pass the ball.
Overpassing, he was.
And it didn't look right. But then on the same week, in a different city, we saw the real Mike James. So that's how he has to play in the playoffs for Monaco to make their dreams come true.
Yeah, I remember there was a lot of noise after his return to Kaunas that he's not himself, he looks bad, and a lot of stuff. But I mean, it was too early to judge him, especially before this second game in the double round week, because he was returning not just from the suspension. He was injured before he got suspended, and basically the last time he played in EuroLeague it was between 2 and 3 weeks. So in any case, suspension or not, it takes time to get back to your game rhythm. So I think it was also influenced by that. Also combining it with this strange mental state of Mike James. So what my team needs to do now when I was suspended and there was some team stuff that was related to that suspension. So I wasn't surprised at all when I saw Mike scoring 28. I think that, as I said, we can expect more MVP basketball from his perspective until the end of the season.
You should never be surprised when Mike James scores 28. That's the thing. And we've talked while he was still suspended that Monaco needs him to win a playoff series. And that's the most important thing. I mean, the remaining 2 games of the regular season for Monaco are not that important, so you could expect some of the key players sitting out or something like that. I'm not sure how Sasha Obradović approaches this, but in a series, Mike James could give you something extra to win the series, to be ahead in the series. Like Okobo and Lloyd, they're 2 great players, but if you take Mike James out of the conversation and let's say you match Monaco with Maccabi, well, then basically you're matching Okobo and Lloyd versus Baldwin and Brown. And in this case, you're matching Okobo, Lloyd, and Mike James with Wade, Baldwin, and Brown. So it's a different picture, you know. I just hope to see him continue like he did against Bayern Munich. In Kaunas, it seemed like he met all these people for the first time. He played together with all these guys for the first time. It looked like he's a newcomer. I
wouldn't say so. I think it was vice versa. I mean, because if he's a new guy, he's alpha male, you know, and he's just going there, balling and scoring in big numbers. He just knew these guys too much. There was something between them, and that what make Mike James different and not himself.
I mean, what I'm saying is like if you don't take labels, if you don't know who Mike James is in basketball context, in that game, he looked like a newcomer who is kind of
trying to adjust.
He's kind of shy. He doesn't really want to look selfish. He doesn't want to
take fancy shots,
to take all the spotlight. Yeah,
and for me, it was more about him being in coma for a couple of weeks, having some memory problems, then coming back on the court, and you know what to remember what the player he was.
It was just not the natural 05. It was somebody else in that game. But then in Germany, finally.
And like that was a great comparison. That Mike James came to the park to play some basketball, and he was just not what we are used to seeing from him on EuroLeague courts. He was, instead of attacking on in ISO situations or just taking these tough shots, he was playing the defense 120%. Which he is always able to do, but maybe when he's as aggressive on the offensive side, he has to preserve some energy on the other side. And instead it was the opposite sometimes, although he played some great defense against Ignas Brazdeikis. But as I said to Donatas a couple of days ago, you don't sign Mike James to play that defense and not be aggressive on the offensive side. You sign him to make plays on the offensive side so other 4 guys can help him on the defense later. And just the type of shots he took against Bayern is the best example, how he came back to his self, in that game. Because also we should say shout out to Žalgiris for that defensive plan against Monaco and against Mike James. But it's still, if Mike James really wants to take over the games, he can do it at any time.
And in Munich, he was 6 from 9 shooting free. So that's his best 3-point shooting performance by far this season.
He's like 28% from 3 this year.
He's under 30 right now. It's 29.7%. So under 30. And before this game, his best shooting night was against Real Madrid, 4 from 7.
7 years ago. Oh,
I mean this season.
I'm just watching his records, all-time records, and actually he made 6 threes 7 years ago playing for Baskonia against Real Madrid.
Yeah, and this season against Real Madrid, he was 4 from 7. So that was his best performance, and it was that game with a crazy shot over Eddie Tavares.
Oh, okay.
And now he goes 6 from 9. And that's very important because Monaco's biggest struggle this season is 3-point shooting. That's one of the biggest reasons why they lost in Kaunas. The difference in 3-point shooting the two teams had on the night.
They are last in 3-point ratio, and they're second to last in 3-point percentage. So they're taking the least amount of threes with the lowest percentage in the league, and they took 13 3-pointers against Žalgiris. 13. I don't remember last time I saw as little number in the modern basketball era where everybody's shooting 30 to 40 threes per game. 13 only.
So you said Monaco signed Mike James to score, right? because they usually
To
are
score,
less
create,
interested. Less
Put
and
numbers
interested.
on the board.
Yeah,
put
but-
numbers on the board.
because usually Americans are disinterested in playing off ball, and they have this
my
different
God.
playing
We're
style.
gonna-
We're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
discuss
Europeans.
this terrible take.
Pozzecco,
of
Pozzecco
course.
should not
Oh.
have said it something like this. Why? Why?
It's a terrible take.
Why
And we
is
have to
he
address
even
it because
saying something
before,
like that?
usually we were hearing only disinterested American players having their reactions about this take. So we will put this objective take on what we think about, we as Europeans, what we think about Pozzecco saying such things about American players.
First of all, why is he saying this? Second of all,
First,
you
okay.
can't generalize that.
The second one is just pure facts. The first one was, I think that he was interviewed. Yeah, he was interviewed before Milan's and Efes game. So probably he was asked to compare Shabazz Napier, who was just he was just being awesome lately, and Vasily Misic. So probably that's why this topic was brought on the table.
To me, the worst part of it is that he says it like all American players are the same. Like,
Exactly.
who can say that Darius Thompson
I can say that Thomas Walkup is
and
disinterested
Darius
in playing off
Thompson,
ball.
Thomas Walkup, Lorenzo Brown, Mike James, Shane Larkin are all them the same? They play differently.
Don't
like,
put all the players in one shelf. You know.
exactly. Like Shane Larkin plays a lot off ball, and actually it's the coach's job to put players in their best positions. Who's the better ball handler, who's a better off ball player, who's a combo guard, who's a true point guard. I mean, it's the coach's job to do all these tasks. And if the European point guards are so much better than the American point guards, why are not all, but so many European nations naturalizing American point guards? And who won the Eurobasket? An American point guard.
Oh wait, so now you're saying he's an American point guard?
Well, he is.
No, I'm kidding.
He has a Spanish passport. So, like, I don't get it. Why Pozzecco says something like that? He's a man with a lot of experience in basketball. He was a great player himself. Now he's a coach of Italian national team. And when you say something like this, it just looks like the man has been living under a rock and hasn't been watching what's happening in the EuroLeague for the last 10 or 20 years. I mean, I don't get it, honestly. We had and we have so many great American players, point guards, shooting guards, whatever.
For instance, he said those things that big EuroLeague teams won EuroLeague with European greats such as Papaloukas, Diamantitis, Spanulis, and Chacho. But at the same time, when Papaloukas left, J.R. Holden was, guiding this CSKA team to the championship. Before Chacha won it to Real Madrid, there was Tyrese Rice and Maccabi Tel Aviv. I mean, all of his statements can be easily, how to say,
Discredited.
Yeah, with just easy facts, not just by emotions or trying to find this diversity or whatever.
Like no one's questioning the greatness of Chacho, Lucas, or Diamantidis, but it's just to think you don't need to separate European players from American players. You just have to agree on that. There are great players in the EuroLeague. And when you're talking about the greatest point guards or whatever, you can have Americans and Europeans in the same conversation, believe it or not. You don't need to say that Americans play differently. As far as I know, United States of America has the most number of players in the EuroLeague, more than any European nation. So The American players are bringing the quality up of this league.
It really depends on your role. And, Diamantidis was great at those things off the ball. And he was doing that because he was so great. And you cannot really generalize that, Diamantidis was great, then all the other European players are great off the ball as well.
Like if you put Chacho Rodriguez as an off-ball player, would that make any sense?
Like he's not an off-ball player, so it really depends on your role, on the coach of the team. He was comparing Micic and Napier. I don't think Micic is great off the ball. To be honest with you, he's the guy that people are telling, he wants the ball every time to play the pick and roll. He wants to play every pick and roll that there is on the court. He wants the ball every time on any team.
And in the meantime, Shane Larkin is doing all the off-ball movement.
So
look at
we love Pozzecco. We love his his coaching in the Italian league, but this was just, I think, or either translated bad, or he was just he was completely wrong with his take here.
Yeah, and it's speaking of those examples, look at Luka Doncic, performing at the highest level. You cannot say that he's very interested in any off-ball situations.
Although in that one game in Charlotte, he was angry and he started shooting threes off staggers, which I've never seen before.
Maybe when he was
he's
16 years old in Real Madrid.
Right now. He was actually, I think he was close to shooting those staggers in 2017 when we were watching this BN retro episode. There was way more ball movement.
It was still Goran's team, and he was 17?
18 already.
Yeah.
Fresh 18. I wanted to add something. Okay, yeah. Although we're saying that, it was a really bad take by Pozzecco, but it's okay to have this track record of one bad take of 10 good takes, as we can also have on this podcast.
There were so many horrible takes at this table during the, how many, 3 years we've been doing this show?
Couple of
2
years,
years, right? And
I hope that our track record
since August joined, he basically improved our bad take, good take ratio to the good side. But when there were just two of us...
Guys, I really need Olympiacos to win the last 2 games, because I said there is going to be a team with 25 wins and they have 23. I really need them to win.
Even if they don't, you're going to be 1 win away from your...
It doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
Yeah, but you're sort of in the right direction. And, saying Wade Baldwin and Lorenzo Brown is a bad fit at the moment looks like going
completely
off
opposite.
the course, somewhere. You need to go left and you go...
We're crashing into
right
the
Yeah, you crash
wall.
into a rock or something.
It's 2 games left, and we had to revisit our predictions that we had.
That's true.
Yeah.
I had so many bad predictions. I didn't even want to start
I think
with.
I had Partizan over 17 wins as well.
You had Partizan in playoffs, right?
I for sure had Partizan in the playoffs, I had Žalgiris as 16th team on my power ranking. I said that Baskonia looks like the least talented Baskonia that we've witnessed. Although that's true, but still they somehow found this chemistry and those shining players like Darius Thompson and stuff.
The thing with Žalgiris is that it made a lot of sense before the season to put them somewhere lower than they are right now.
Yeah, because they just go against logical thinking, probably.
Yeah, let's be real. There will be overperforming teams and underperforming teams every season.
Yeah.
But when you try to rank teams before the season, you're just using your common sense and all these players and you look at the rosters, and who could say before the season that it's Milan and Efes, the 2 teams that are not going to make it to the playoffs. Efes still has a chance, but it looks like... And we were sort of locking those teams in the Final Four.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it
exactly
just the quarterfinals. We all 3 of us saw Milan and Efes in the Final Four.
Yeah, I saw Milan winning the regular season. But thanks for making me feel better.
It's not your fault that players got injured. Couldn't see that.
How many coaches are fired this year?
How
2
many
maybe?
coaches?
Panathinaikos and Red Star, I think.
Only Rytis had over 4.5 teams. firing coaches.
Okay.
You are the only one giving Partizan 18 wins.
Yes.
At least.
Yes, at least one good take.
Coaches
At
with
least
the
one
most
good take.
technical. We had Sharas with Rytis, and you had Trinchieri, and I think Kazys Maksvytis.
Maksvytis is leading the EuroLeague.
leading this
Yeah.
easily. Top scorer, Rytis had Mike James. You had Scotty Wilbekin. I had Vasilija Micic.
Well,
And nobody's getting a point here, I think.
I went with a safe option. I mean,
And
Mike James is
25
just-
wins a team.
Yeah,
I was
1.7.
the only one to say yes, 25.
Okay.
We were pretty bad here.
Mike James is just 0.7 points behind
yeah,
Vezenkov.
still close.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, we were not expecting this from Vezenkov.
No.
This level of basketball.
It's okay. We won't put this part on the podcast. I mean, we will cut it
Oh,
out.
we finished already, right? Yeah.
I'm
that's
just
cool.
kidding. For the last part, unfortunately, this week we didn't have any sponsor. Okay, Gianmarco Pozzecco was a sponsor of this social media segment on our podcast. It was brought by James Nunnally, Tyrese Rice, Mike James as well. But since we didn't have such a big social media activity because those players were playing, I mean, it was a double round week, I thought about bringing up some other segment that we were thinking of, which I would call URBONUS Book Club. And I was actually surprised that there's literally a thing like Ekpe Udo Book Club. You must follow Ekpe Udo on Twitter. He's a great guy, and of course he was an amazing player. So I'll just read one story, one random story, and you can react. You cannot react. You can just keep silent. But I just wanted to.
Is he putting this on Twitter?
No. He just has his separate business. I mean, this Ekpe Udo Book Club. It's a different one. It's not related. So I just gave a shout out to Ekpe Udo. And since we started the social media stuff, book club, we it's a kind of finding a balance between social media, the harm that it makes. So we still have to go old school with this book club. So anyway, I'm reading a story from Nick Nurse's book Rapture, 15 teams, 4 countries, 1 NBA championship, and how to find a way to win damn near anywhere. And I love this part. I've read this book. I love this part about Dennis Rodman, who joined Brighton Bears for a couple of British Basketball League games in 2006, and Nick Nurse, the NBA champion, was coaching Brighton Bears. So the context was that, Nick Nurse was in his last season with Brighton Bears in 26. Dennis Rodman was on a London-based reality show, Celebrity Big Brother. So basically, accidentally, they found a deal to play a couple of games for $25K each game. So I will read a short segment from that book. The first game that Rodman played for us at the 1,500 seat arena, which was attached to a community center and what was called a multi-purpose fun pool, a splash pool with water slides and so forth. So it wasn't exactly the United Center in Chicago, but tickets sold out in a matter of hours. The game was supposed to start at 7:30. At about 7:10, Dennis still had not showed up. We got a call that he was late leaving London, but should be at the arena soon. We pushed the game back to 8. He got there at about 7:50. It took about 8 security guards to get him out of his car and push him through the crowds gathered on the street. And he came into the locker room where everybody was sitting in their uniforms waiting for him. The first thing he said was, "Hey, I always shower before the game." And he dropped all his shit, his bag and whatever he was carrying, and walked into the shower room. When he came out and got his uniform on, we had a quick little meeting just to let him know what we were running. A few minutes into the game, I put him in. I was still running the triangle, which of course he knew from Chicago, and one of many options out of is called the blind pig. You don't call the play like everything else in the triangle, it's improvised. So the first offensive possession, Dennis flashed into the post, a guard passed him the ball, and he immediately threw a no-look bounce pass to a cutting teammate for the basket. It was a blind pig, executed perfectly and instinctively like he just made the same pass the day before with MJ on receiving end. He ran down to the defensive end, took a charge, and the building went absolutely crazy. He stretched out the floor, and his new teammates, whom he'd met 15 minutes ago, pulled him off the floor and gave him high fives. We won the game by a few points, and he scored a handful of points and grabbed maybe 8 rebounds. So shout out to Brighton Beers, Nick Nurse, and Dennis Rodman.
That's the most, Dennis Rodman story that you can get. I mean, postponing games because one player is late.
He wants to get a shower.
But the pre-game shower, I kind of respect that.
Yeah.
I kind of respect that.
I mean, I would never go to play without having a shower.
And we all had those high school stories. We've got some guys not having a shower, not just morning shower, but just for a few days.
After the game.
After the game.
I just like feeling clean before I start playing, Maybe Dennis Rodman needs the shower for other reasons. I heard that a cold shower might help coping with headaches and hangovers, but I don't
Good
know.
for your body.
Man. Yeah, it's Dennis Rodman. What can we say?
Okay, guys.
So Blind Pig was actually ran already.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That was a cool piece of the book that you read here.
Yeah, I'll try to find a few more random things for the future pods. That's all for this episode. Thank you all for being there. Thank you all for listening to us. If you want to help us grow, there's an easy way of pressing the like button, subscribing our channel, and also joining Basket News Plus community on basketnews.com/plus. There are some great offers over there, so don't be shy. Just join us to be even more involved in all the content we do. See you next time.